You are listening to the audio production of The Anxiety Reset, a life-changing approach to overcoming fear, stress, worry, panic attacks, OCD, and more, by Gregory Jantz, Ph.D., with Keith Wall, published by Tyndale Momentum. This book is read by Tim H. Dixon. Forward. If you are one of the tens of millions who battle anxiety, you will appreciate this book from its very first word. If you are not one of us, you almost certainly know someone who is, not just out in the world, but right near you, in your family, or in your close orbit. Everyone is afraid of something, of someone, of some situation, of some role, of some period of life. We are an anxious species, and we know it, and that can often just increase our anxiety. In some ways, our natural anxiety is a good thing. The anxious person lives in constant potential, especially potential for reframing anxiety from paralyzing fear into courageous action. If we are anxious, we have the opportunity to be inspired by bravery, as Dr. Gregory Jantz tells us in The Anxiety Reset. Bravery and courage are not just for heroes and saints, but for all of us. They are our equal psychological inheritance. But they are not a given. In fact, quite often, we let our anxiety be more of a given than our courage. This can be changed. Sitting down to write this foreword, I felt fear blooming in me. I felt it in my gut, a situational anxiety, because Dr. Jantz is not only a colleague but a friend, and I want to do my job of foreword writer well for him. Not only does anxiety inspire courage, but it also reminds us of the fact that we are living lives in which something is at stake. That is a good thing. As I got started on my task, some of my anxiety abated. Actually doing the work quieted me, as every small courageous action can do. The anxiety Dr. Jantz writes about in this book is not often as simple as mine was in this case. Today's difficult world has millions of people living on the anxiety spectrum, more of us than know it. Some 40 million Americans fit on the anxiety spectrum, and with around 40 million Americans struggling with sleep issues, sleep disorders use some of the same chromosome markers as anxiety, we have an overlap that probably exceeds the 40 million number. If you spend a lot of time ruminating on your faults, on the negatives that could happen in your life, on the harm that has been done to you or the harm you may be doing, or on how inadequate you feel to face the world, you are likely anxious. Without realizing it, perhaps, you accept personal debilitation inside the core human fear of inadequacy. I am not adequate, your mind is saying, and I don't know how to be adequate. This fear of inadequacy grounds anxiety in the brain via rumination loops. There is constant rumination synaptic connectivity between the amygdala's fear centers and other areas of the brain that focus your brain's attention on the fear itself, the inadequacy, the debilitation. The anxious person's brain stays there unless they get help to change. Once help comes, the first step of courage can occur, the shot of dopamine and adrenaline that says to the system, I am going to do something new to make gold of this fear, to push through it, to reframe, to reset, to be adequate. Dr. Jantz's Anxiety Reset gives you that shot of dopamine and the template for courage, and thus helps direct you toward an empowered future. I cannot remember the poet who said this, but I've never forgotten the line, experience shreds us into bits as it forms its wholes. That is a mind-bender, I know, but I think the poet is saying that as you live life, you will be shredded somewhat by what happens to you. But even as you fragment and feel afraid, you are forming a person of meaning. You can become whole. The holistic approach of the Anxiety Reset echoes this poetic quote. There is no single thread in this book that promises perfect living. Instead, help from various fields and disciplines, neurology, psychology, and nutrition, to name a few, congregates in this book, matched with actual case studies from decades of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?